When Howard Lutnick, the United States Secretary of Commerce and longtime Trump ally, sat for a podcast interview in 2025, he told a story that instantly attracted attention. He recalled visiting Jeffrey Epstein's Manhattan townhouse years ago as a neighbor with his wife. They were shown a massage room. Epstein, he said, boasted that he received the right kind of massage every day. Lutnick claims he and his wife were so disturbed that they vowed never to be alone with him again. He then leapt further, calling Epstein the greatest blackmailer ever and speculating that Epstein's lenient 2008 plea deal might have been bought with secret recordings of powerful men. On its face, the anecdote seems lurid and damning, but when examined closely, it reads less like whistleblowing and more like damage control. An intricate rhetorical performance designed to place Lutnick close enough to Epstein to appear credible, but distant enough to seem innocent. His words reveal a layered strategy, a kind of reputational inoculation, which becomes clearer when we trace how the story is built. Lutnick's opening move is to establish proximity without entanglement. By recounting that visit to Epstein's townhouse, he situates himself as an insider. He was there. He saw what ordinary people could not, yet he immediately pairs this with a declaration of disgust. He and his wife were repelled and resolved never to return. This allows him to claim both credibility and innocence at once. He gains the authority of someone who saw Epstein up close, while escaping the taint of complicity. It is a carefully calibrated stance balancing intimacy and revulsion. But that stance only highlights the glaring silence that followed. If Lutnick truly believed he had glimpsed the lair of a predator, why did he not speak sooner? He said nothing after Epstein's 2008 plea deal. Nothing after the financier's 2019 arrest, nothing after Epstein's death, and he seems to regard Epstein more as a blackmailer than a predator. Did this delay demonstrate concern for a different set of victims? In the end, he only surfaced his story in 2025, on a friendly podcast rather than under oath. That long silence undermines his moral authority, turning what might look like revelation into belated self-protection. His timing makes his disclosure appear less like duty and more like positioning. The most striking element of Lutnick's account is his certainty. He doesn't just speculate that Epstein might have blackmailed men of power. He states it as fact. Epstein was, quote, the greatest blackmailer ever, but he provides no evidence. He saw no cameras, no tapes, no confessions. So where then does his certainty come from? Here, the strategy really sharpens. By leaving the source of his knowledge unexplained, Lutnick manufactures this aura of mystique. Maybe someone confided in him. Maybe victims complained. Maybe he saw something a little more personal. He never says. And that silence is not weakness but design. It invites the public to wonder what he knows, to credit him with inside information, to grant more weight to his future words. The missing link itself becomes, strangely enough, a reputational asset. This claim of certainty also puts him at odds with his own administration. Both the FBI and the Justice Department have insisted there is, quote, no credible evidence of a client list or systemic trafficking to third parties. FBI Director Kash Patel told Congress the Bureau has found nothing of the kind. Lutnick, though, flatly contradicts them. By doing so, he hedges his bets. If sealed documents or investigative leaks later prove the government wrong, he can say he always suspected as much. If no such evidence appears, he can just retreat to the posture of someone who was simply voicing concerns. His contradiction, then, works as a sort of future-proof shield, either vindication or plausible deniability. All of this is sharpened by the timing. Lutnick isn't speaking as just a private citizen, but as a cabinet secretary in a Trump administration that holds the power to release Epstein-related files. He's long been close to Trump, a partner on the golf course and a beneficiary of that political proximity. If such files are soon to be unsealed, Lutnick would almost certainly be among the first to know. Against that backdrop, his sudden disclosure looks less like some moral awakening and more like preemptive damage control. He's planting his alibi in public before his name can appear in someone else's documents. The lateness of his speech isn't incidental, it's the very mark of strategy. The form of the story itself follows a familiar pattern among elites. Step 1. Declare proximity. I was there. Step 2. Proclaim disgust. I was horrified. Step 3. Float suspicion. He blackmailed everyone. Now, together, these steps create a protective narrative, kind of like a vaccine against reputational contagion. Each element reinforces the others. Proximity grants credibility, disgust provides cover, and suspicion explains future revelations in advance. The structure is not accidental. It is, in fact, the architecture of elite self-preservation. And in the end, what purpose does this serve? It does nothing for Epstein's victims. It adds nothing to accountability. It is not new evidence or a moral reckoning. It is, rather, a personal shield. These stories function to protect the storyteller, not the public. They recast silence as suspicion, proximity as proof, disgust as innocence. They shift the narrative away from complicity and toward the safer ground of hindsight. Howard Lutnick's disclosure, then, is not whistleblowing. It is not revelation. It is the rehearsal of an alibi, a pre-reckoning panic dance, a performance of outrage that inoculates reputation while preparing for whatever documents may come. And if his story is any guide, he will not be the last. When the powerful begin to tell us how horrified they always were, how briefly they knew Epstein, and how certain they were of his crimes without ever speaking, it is not conscience that drives them. It is the choreography of self-preservation, perfected in advance of the reckoning they fear.